balita ni Hesukristo sa mga Pilipino sa ating bayan at maging sa mga nasa ibang bansa tungo sa Far East Broadcasting Company Philippines.
Sa Mega Manila, makakapakinig sa 702 DZAS-AM, Agapay ng Sambayanan, at 98.7 DZFE-FM, The Master's Touch. Sa Santiago City, Isabela, sa 1143 DZMR-AM, Missions Radio. Legazpi City, Albay, CARE 104.3 DWAY-FM. Sa Quezon, Palawan, 106.3 DZRK-FM, Radio Kapitbise.
Sa Tacloban City, 97.5 DYFE-FM, unang tugon ng pamayanan. Bacolod City, 1233 DYVS-AM, the sweet voice of salvation. Up 987 DYFR-FM, life-changing. Sa Cagayan de Oro City, 103.3 the new J DXJL-FM, your positive choice.
Zamboanga City, 1116 DXAS-AM, your community radio. Cotabato City, 106.9 DXGR-FM, Radio Gandingan. Sa Coronadal City, 1062 DXKI-AM, your friendly voice. Davao City, 1197 DXFE-AM, the Good News Radio. Makakapakinig din sa mga online streams at sa mga mobile apps.
Ito ang mga himpilan ng Far East Broadcasting Company Philippines sa ika-78 taong pagsasahimpapawid. Naghahatid ng mensahe ng kapayapaan ni Kristo hanggang marinig ng lahat.
Life can be challenging and can put our faith to the test, but we can find inspiration in real-life stories and powerful insights that can lift our spirits and hearts. Here now is Stories That Build Faith with Pastor Ron Bishop of Shepherd Shapers from San Antonio, Texas. Stories that build faith, because hope is just a story away.
Good afternoon on this Sunday. It is very good to come to see you today and to talk with you about the life of David and Goliath and all that happened during those early days of David's life. As I share with you, continuing on the life of David, I am excited because there are so many things about his life that inspire us, that help us. He is known as the minstrel, as a worshiper, and he was certainly a worshiper of the Lord, and it is credit to him that he had what God called a heart after God. And so as we look at the life of David, I want to share with you so many different things that I've been preparing and thinking about this week, and so I want to share with you about this. Now, David had become, after he was anointed in 1 Samuel 17 or 1 Samuel 16, he was anointed by Samuel, and now he has become he'd gone back to the fields with his sheep, and then now he was, when the Spirit of God had come upon David as he had been anointed, so did it come off of Saul, because he was no longer God's choice for the king. And so as all of this began to take place, now finally, as we spoke of the days previous, why we talked about how that the Spirit of the Lord had come upon David, and an evil spirit, a dark mood came upon King Saul. And as all of this had taken place, now Saul finds himself in a place where he needs some way to ward off the blackness, the darkness, the discouragement, the depression that has come upon him. And so the advisors around King Saul have advised him to call upon a minstrel, someone who could come and play the harp. David had been brought. Now here he has advanced to the point to where he even becomes Saul's armor bearer. In other words, he wants him close for whenever those dark moods come upon him. The only thing is he never asked David many questions about himself. Saul was not a good conversationalist, and he was a Benjamite, but from the smallest of Israel's tribes, but he was not a good conversationalist. And so he never engaged very much in conversation with David, really didn't know who David was, didn't know what he knew how to do besides being a minstrel or being someone who could play the harp, a musician. And so whatever the situation was in Saul's life, we find that the days, the weeks, the months, we're not sure exactly how long, how old David was at that time. We know that he was approximately 17, possibly even a little bit earlier when Samuel had anointed him. But now as the years pass, he is still a young man. It would be 13 years before he would be the king that Samuel was prophesying about. But we know that as David was here in this place, why he had now been, as he was the minstrel for Saul, and they were going into battle, and he would have to totally focus on what was ahead of him with his soldiers, with his army, against the Philistines. He decided that he would send David home for a break. And so he sent David home. David had been home with his father, perhaps even for several months, when Jesse called on him to do him a favor and take supplies to his sons and to bring news again as to how the battle was going. And so the battle had focused on the Valley of Elah, and as David was sent by his father, he packed a sack of dried grains and 10 loaves of bread for his sons. Then he instructed David to carry these 10 cheeses to the captains of their thousands and see how your brothers fare and bring news again to me. And so David immediately was responsible, and the next morning he arose and he went out to go and find his brothers at that place where they knew the battle was being fought. And so while he was on his errand, he arose early that next morning. He took the food and was on his way. The battle had moved to the Shephelah region, where the village of the Valley of Elah was. The tension between the two forces had become quite intense. David arrived with supplies from the family table and word from home. But as soon as David arrived, the battle was, and he had 3 brothers there, Eliab, Abinadab, and Shemiah. And as these men were there with Saul and his army, why they were now the giant, Goliath, who had come out from the camp of the Philistines and was challenging Israel. This time when David arrived there, it was the 40th time that the 40th day that he had come out, and twice a day he would come. It appears that perhaps David arrived there in the morning. At any rate, we know that when David challenged him, it was on the 80th time. That's twice a day for 40 days he had challenged Israel. And so David was on site with these men, and he had come with them. But now, as these soldiers being called forth to the actual scene of the battle, they are on one mountain, whereas the Philistines are on another mountain, and there's a valley in between them. And so as the soldiers came from Saul's side, from Israel's side, and Goliath had come from the Philistine side. He was coming down the mountain, and he's calling out. His voice was loud, it was deep, it was strong, and he was a man that was quite large. He was they say over 9 feet tall. And so as he came down the mountainside and he came toward them, why, there are some disputes over the actual height of Goliath. Primarily, we know because of the measurements that were given of those times and the measurements we are acquainted with, and the years being what they are, nearly 3,000 years. Why, we do find that David's average height was probably about 5'5". He would not have been as tall as the average is today. But he was about 5'5", and Goliath was definitely, many of the giants of those days were known to be up to 8 feet tall, and some even taller. It is also clear that Goliath was extreme in areas of his bulk and his strength, especially when we see the details regarding his breastplate, his shield, and his spear. It would take a man of a significant size to be able to carry all of the weight of his armor. He had an armor bearer, yes, in front of him carrying his shield, but he was a man who was quite large, and so his helmet, his breastplate, these weighed 125 pounds. He's carrying all this weight around, but he is a man big enough to where it's appropriate for him. And so he's ready to go into battle. So he's a fearsome creature to look at coming down the other side of the mountain, and he's calling out, challenging Israel. He says, "You have one king. His name is Saul. I want one man to come out and to fight me." And as David left his armor or his gifts, his food, the things he had brought in the care of one of the men there, why, he ran to the battle to be near his brothers and to see what was going on and to observe Goliath from the beginning. And as he looked at him, he was amazed. He said, "This man who is defying the armies of God, this should not be allowed. What's going on here? Are you guys not really realizing who you're fighting for? You're not just fighting for Saul, you're fighting for God." And so as David began to talk this way, why, he began to ask different questions. And as he asked these questions, why, he was saying, what does the king want? What does he want any of us to do? You are the soldiers. What does he want you to do? And the men all said, well, he wants them to take Goliath down, but none of us are able to go and do that. And then he says, well, what does the king say he will give as a reward to the one who would slay this man, who would dare defy the armies of God? And they said, well, he will make that man's family tax-free, and he will give his daughter to wife to this man. David listened to that, and his brother Eliab mocked him for that. And as he mocked him for that, why, it was interesting how David was so determined that he would go and he would fight this man, and he had really had the Lord in his heart. And so as all of this took place, David is really ready, and he begins to talk out loud about his thoughts, about how he would be glad to go out and fight with this man. Anything, if no one else wants to fight him, then I will fight him. And so David, as he's talking this way, why, they are mocking him, his brother. And so as all of this takes place, while we see how that Saul calls for David to come. And as David came to him, why, he began to tell him, I will be glad to go out and fight this man and bring him down. And Saul said, you can't do that. You are just a boy. And he really doesn't know, even though he knows David because he's been his minstrel. He doesn't know David. He doesn't know what his history is, what his battle activities have been. And so he doesn't know much about David. And so David is able to tell him, he said, I've killed both a lion and a bear. Or it says in one translation, said lions and bears he has killed. And so as David has done this, he tells Saul that I would take my club when I was with my sheep and they came out to assault to take a lamb. And he said, I would take my club and I would beat that. And if it turned on me, I would take it by the beard and then I would beat it to death there. And he had successfully, David was not just a little shepherd boy as we tend to think from reading the Bible story in 1 Samuel 17 or 1 Samuel 16. He seemed to be much more than that. He was a warrior. He was not just a warrior who would sing and dance and he would act as if he is going to war. He was not just a pantomime. He was not just a young man who idealized war. No, he had been to war. He had been to war with the animals, with nature, with the circumstances. In his heart, he had already committed in his life that he wanted to be a warrior for the Lord. And somehow it had translated, especially with the practice it took for him to become a slinger, to take the slingshot and to be able to be as accurate as he was. That did not come in a day. That comes through many different things, experiences of really working to get your accuracy down pat. And so as David did this, now he comes to Saul. And Saul finally, he even puts his armor on him, gave him his breastplate, gave him his helmet, and prepared him where he would look like a soldier. After all, he had to dress up this boy. He didn't look like he was a warrior. He was an amazing young man. And so Saul put it on him, and he tried to take a few steps, and he said, this has not been tried. I cannot use this. I've not fought in battle with this type of weight and extra things on my body. And so he put it aside, and he was ready to go into battle without it. He said, I've got my slingshot. And that just, it's amazing as we read that story today. It looks like a children's story, but there is so much more to it. Especially, I've been doing some research this week about slingers. They call them slingers. These are men who take a slingshot, just a pound. They take a sling in ancient times resembled an eye patch with two cords tied to it, opposite the end of a small piece of cloth or leather. This piece of cloth or leather served as a pouch for the stone to fit in, and then the two cords that would be stretching from either side of it, they would take it and they would put it around one piece. They would tie it around one of their fingers, and then they would take the other one and hold it with their thumb, and they would begin to sling it. And as they would begin to sling it, it took a lot of practice, but they would begin to take that thing and spin it in the direction of their target, and then they got to where they were so good that they could hit exactly where they wanted to hit it. And this takes a lot of practice, and they could do this, and it would be up to 440 meters that are up to 40 it would be up to 400 meters. They could sling and be able to hit their target. These were used in ancient times. The most famous slinger in ancient history was King David, but few truly appreciate David's prowess in this art of sling throwing. The traditional storytelling relegates the David and Goliath story to a child's toy, but it was anything but that, because they would put that equal to and up beside of those who drew the bow, like Robin Hood. They'd draw that bow and the arrow would go. But someone who would sling with this would be actually more accurate and more deadly, and be less, it would be an easier thing to carry. And so this guy with a slinger, he would take that and he would be able to go into battle. Ancient people all over the world have used this. And so it's been an interesting thing. In Peru, they've used it. In the Chinese armies, they've used it. In all of the Mediterranean areas, they would use it. There's an area where Majorca is one of the islands, the largest of the islands of the Balearic, I think they would say it, Balearic Islanders. They're famous for centuries, millenniums. They have been using this as one of the first genuine weapons that was used, and men got to be so good at it that it was always amazing. As a matter of fact, the tribe of Benjamin were known, which is Saul's tribe, in Judges chapter 20, during the civil war between the tribe of Benjamin and all of the other tribes of Israel. The record indicates that 700 Benjamite experts were exported at sling throwers and were part of the forces drawn up for the engagement. Among these were 700 chosen men of the Benjamites who were left-handed, and everyone could sling a stone at a hair and not miss. They could have one object out there on a tree somewhere, and they could sling that stone and hit it exactly bullseye. And as they could do that, Saul was a part of the Benjamites, and Saul could have done so many things, but David was able to help him. By the time David engaged Goliath, he had already had a reputation for being a warrior and was employed as Saul's armor bearer. And so David was likely, it could have been even in his early 20s, but definitely probably more like in his late teens. If he had begun this training with a sling as a young boy, by the time he faced off with Goliath, he would already have become quite proficient. The irony of this story in David and Goliath, in that account, is that David defeated Goliath with the very same weapon that Saul should have been proficient in. Saul was, after all, a Benjamite. The symbolism here should not escape us. The David and Goliath sling foreshadows David's eventual replacement of Saul by accomplishing everything Saul had been unable to do. God had his hand on David. And so now as he goes out and he stands against Goliath, David, and he has gone to Saul, and Saul has given him approval. You can go and fight this Goliath, and God be with you. And David was just an amazing young man. And so as he went out, he had the spirit of a warrior in his heart. And he said, I will fight Goliath and bring him down. As tall and as great as he is, I will bring him down. And he said, your army shall get great glory after Goliath is slain by a man like me, who is not seen as a full-grown man and not fit for fighting. Our enemies may not see me as a man and certainly not an elder. Give me the chance, and you'll see that the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear. He will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. So finally Saul gave him permission, and he said, okay, you may go. And so finally Saul, as he became convinced, he said to David, go and let the Lord be with you. And so he tried to give him his armor, and David wouldn't take it. And now we find that David went after him, and he came down the mountain, and he picked up 5 smooth stones. Sometimes those stones that are made, they're handmade. They're stones that are made by the men who will be a slinger. Sometimes they even use lead to do it. But in this case, we're talking the beginning of a young man who picked up this gift, and he would start doing this on his own. He wasn't a part of the world of slingers, but he was a young man who had learned this art. And so David, as he came to them, the battle was heating up, and David came down the mountain, and he got the 5 smooth stones out of the brook, and then he was off to face Goliath. It almost appeared that to Goliath, that David had jumped into the fray on his own. It was almost as Goliath looked at him, and he could not imagine that Saul would have considered him one of his stronger soldiers to come out and be qualified to on the same caliber to fight with Goliath. He did not imagine this, and he said, am I a dog that you would send out a child, a boy, into this field? And he looked down at him, and he sneered at him. And this apple-cheeked and peach-fuzzed boy, David had taken his staff in his hand, then veered off to one side of the valley so that his steps would bring him near to the brook. He then selected 5 smooth stones, and now he heads in to fight with Goliath. On the next few moments, Goliath felt the great humiliation, and he began to call out to David, mocking him, that, do you take me for a man, for being a man, or do you look at me like I'm a dog? You have not come as if to fight, but you have come to just play games with me. And he was absolutely insulted because David had come out. Well, that really was a good thing, because what we see is God will often use the weaker things of our lives in order to confound the mighty. And God used these things to cause David to have the strength necessary in order to be able to go out there and do this. David was a lot more accomplished than anybody around him was aware of, because he had been training out in the fields where he had God as his teacher, where he was worshiping the Lord all that time. And as David had learned all of this out of the view of his family didn't know what God was doing in his life. And so he was getting his heart right. And I think the heart, a soldier, a warrior, is really made partly and strengthened and becomes a part of his identity when he gets his heart into it. You don't just go out and decide you're going to be a soldier. You have to get into it. That's why you have basic training, and that's why you have to work very hard in order to be able to do the things that you will be required to do. And so David, as he stood up, and Goliath was so insulted by this, why David responded to Goliath, and he said, you come out to fight me with a sword and a spear and a breastplate, but I have God for my armor in coming against you. And he said, I come out to fight you in the name of the Lord all-powerful. He is the God of Israel's army, and you have insulted him. Today the Lord will help me to defeat you. This young boy is talking to Goliath, a man of war who has been a man of war from his youth, who has the bulk of eating many meals and exercising, and he is such a heavyweight warrior. And yet David said, I will knock you down, cut off your head, and feed the rest of your body to the dogs. I'll feed the bodies of the other Philistine soldiers to the birds and the wild animals. Then the whole world will know that Israel has a real God. And nobody around here has been telling you how real our God is, but I'm here to tell you He is a real God. And He wants today to be victorious, and He will help me to be victorious. Everybody here will see that the Lord doesn't need swords or spears to save His people. The Lord always wins His battles, and He will help me defeat you. I'll tell you what, this can get you worked up when you begin to realize just how absolutely powerful this moment is. This story will make history in all the cultures of the world. All the people who ever hear about the days of David the king will be amazed as they realize that throughout history, why God has been doing powerful things. And so David's descent to the floor of the Valley of Elah evoked a spirit of conflict like nothing else. But the Lord had been, from where he stood in the middle of the valley, why David was able to see Goliath and run toward him. Israel had come down from their vantage point or moved toward him because the army because they did not know how they should respond to his words. However, his challenge by David had created an electricity in the air. Already, although no one had an idea of how this was going to work out, they moved into position so that David would be given backup and not be left alone. Perhaps God would smile upon His people and Goliath would fall. The soldiers gathered down. They started moving toward David because they realized that whatever happens, we have got to be in a position to be able to back him up. And so I'm going to have to close now because we are coming to the end of our broadcast. But I find it interesting that conventional wisdom is baffled when the little guy wins over the big guy. Even in today's culture, people talk about when one army that is smaller faces one army that is larger, or when one person fights against a bigger guy. Why they talk about the David and Goliath situation. And so it's like a colloquialism. It's like a cliche, and people use it like that. But as I look at this story, it gives me courage. It gives me hope when I realize that sometimes the battles I face require some strength that is not within me, but it has to be an infusion of the Holy Spirit. He has to help me. And so this story of David and Goliath, we'll deal with the balance of the story the next time. But I want you to know Jesus Christ is Lord of my life, and He wants to be Lord of your life. These are stories that build faith, and I pray that it does build faith in your life, and that you can begin to accept the power of God that He wants to give to you and give you a victory at the end of every day. Father, we thank You because You have done great and wonderful things for us. I pray to God that today You will cause this Sunday to be a very special time and cause everyone who is listening there in the Philippines to recognize that Jesus Christ is Lord. In Jesus' name, we give You thanks and honor and glory. I'm Pastor Ron coming to you, and want you to know that Jesus Christ is Lord. And I pray that this week that you have coming up, that we all have coming up before us, will be a time when we can recognize that God is even greater in our lives than we have ever known it to be in the past. Thank you. Until next time, God bless you.
You just heard the program Stories That Build Faith with Pastor Ron Bishop of Shepherd Shapers from San Antonio, Texas. We hope you've found the inspiration in the story you heard today. For your comments and suggestions, you may contact us at 0998-843-0573. You may also email us at info@dway.febc.ph. Our Facebook page is Care 104.3 The Way FM.